Listen up, because what I'm about to tell you isn't some fairy tale bullshit. This is the story of how the most powerful man in Tokyo lost everything not to his enemies, but to the one woman he couldn't control, the Shadow King. Ryuto Kageyama wasn't born into power. Nah, he clawed his way up from the gutters of Shinjuku with nothing but ambition and a ruthlessness that made grown men piss themselves. By 32, he built an empire that stretched from real estate to tech, from legitimate businesses to the kind of deals that happened in smoke-filled rooms where cameras weren't allowed. They called him the Shadow King because he operated in darkness, pulling strings nobody else could see. Politicians, CEOs, Yakuza bosses, they all danced when Ryuto played the music. He had everything: a penthouse overlooking Tokyo Tower, cars that cost more than most people's houses, and women who line up just to breathe the same air as him. But here's the thing about men like Ryuto: they don't know when to stop. And that's where Amara-chan entered the picture. The woman who didn't kneel. I still remember the night they met. It was at one of those ridiculous charity galas where rich folks pretend to give a damn about the little guy. Ryuto was holding court, surrounded by the usual ass-kissers and social climbers, when she walked in. Amara-chan, half Chinese, half American, all goddamn trouble. She was wearing this blood-red dress that hugged her curves like sin itself, her long black hair falling down her back like a waterfall at midnight. But it wasn't her looks that caught Ryuto's attention, it was the way she looked at him. Like he was just another man in an expensive suit. No fear. No, just cool. Calculated assessment. Nobody looked at Ryuto Kageyama like that. "You must be the infamous Shadow King," she said when he approached her, her American accent smooth as whiskey. "Gotta say, I expected someone taller." The people around them nearly choked on their champagne. "You don't talk to Ryuto like that. You just don't." But instead of getting pissed, Ryuto laughed. A real laugh, not the cold chuckle he used to intimidate people. "And you must be the consultant who's been poking around my competitor's business. Tell me, Miss Chen, what brings a corporate spy to my city?" "Who says I'm a spy?" She tilted her head, a smirk playing on those full lips. "Maybe I'm just a woman who likes expensive wine and cheap thrills. There's nothing cheap about you. You'd be surprised what I'm worth." That conversation, that was the match that lit the fuse. From that moment on, Ryuto Kageyama became obsessed. Not with owning Amara any fool could buy a woman. No, he wanted to possess her completely, to break through that cool exterior and make her surrender to him, the dance of seduction. For 3 months, they played this twisted game. Ryuto would send her gifts, not the usual diamonds and flowers bullshit, but things that showed he actually paid attention. First edition books because she mentioned loving literature, tickets to underground jazz clubs because she hated the mainstream scene, an antique Chinese compass that had belonged to her grandmother, which he tracked down through a dozen brokers, and Amara, she took it all with that same amused smirk, never giving him an inch. They'd meet at his penthouse, at her apartment in Roppongi, in hotel rooms that cost more per night than most people's monthly salary. The sex was fucking explosive, the kind that leaves claw marks on your back and makes you forget your own name. But even in those moments when she was screaming his name, when her nails were digging into his shoulders, Ryuto could feel it. She was holding something back. "You don't trust anyone, do you?" he asked her one night, both of them tangled in silk sheets, Tokyo's neon glow painting shadows across their skin. "In my experience," Amara said, tracing a finger down his chest, "trust is just another word for weakness. I could give you everything. My name, my protection, my empire." She laughed then, a sound like breaking glass. "Baby, I don't want your empire. I've got my own plans." That should have been the warning sign, but Ryuto was too far gone, too drunk on the chase, too addicted to the one thing he couldn't fully control. 6 months after they met, Ryuto made the mistake of falling in love. He proposed on the rooftop of his building. The entire city spread out beneath them like a kingdom waiting to be ruled. He offered her everything: his heart, his name, his entire world, and Amara said yes. The wedding was set for spring. Ryuto's associates warned him it was too fast, that they didn't know enough about her background. But he didn't give a shit. For the first time in his life, he wanted something that wasn't about power or control. He wanted her, just her, exactly as she was. That's when his head of security, Kenji, came to him with a file. A thick one. "Boss, you need to see this." Inside that file was the truth about Amara-chan. Real name, Amara Tanaka. Daughter of Hiroshi Tanaka, the business partner Ryuto had destroyed 15 years ago. To build his empire, Hiroshi had lost everything: his company, his reputation, his will to live. He'd eaten a bullet. 6 months after Ryuto crushed him, Amara had been 17 when her father died. She'd spent the next decade building herself into a weapon, learning every skill she needed to infiltrate Ryuto's world. The consultant business, just to cover everything, the chance meeting at the gala, the resistance, the seduction, all of it had been planned. She'd been playing him from the start. But here's where it gets really twisted. In the file was something else, financial records showing that Amara had been systematically siphoning information from Ryuto's empire, selling it to his competitors, setting up a network that would destroy everything he'd built the moment she gave the word. The wedding was in 3 days. Ryuto didn't sleep that night. He sat in his office, drinking scotch that cost more than a car, staring at the Tokyo skyline. And for the first time in his life, he felt something he'd never experienced before. Genuine hurt. Not anger at being outmaneuvered. Not fear of losing his empire. Just pure, raw pain that the woman he loved and he loved her had only ever seen him as a target. When Amara came to the penthouse the next evening, she found him waiting. "You know," she said, stopping in the doorway. No surprise, no fear. Just that same cool assessment. "I figured Kenji would dig deep eventually. He's good at his job." "How long?" Ryuto's voice was dead calm. "How long have you been planning this?" "Since I was 17 and found my father with half his head blown off." She walked in, pouring herself a drink like she owned the place. "Since I spent 3 months watching my mother waste away because she couldn't afford cancer treatment after you took everything from us. Since I realized that men like you don't get punished, you get richer. Your father tried to steal from me. He embezzled millions. He was desperate. For the first time, emotion cracked through her facade. You drove him to it. You undercut his business, stole his clients, and when he made one mistake, one fucking mistake, you destroyed him completely. You didn't just take his business, you took his dignity, his reputation, his will to live." Ryuto stood up slowly. "So this was always revenge?" "Damn right it was." Amara knocked back her drink. "I was gonna take you for everything. Your businesses, your reputation, your soul, if I could have managed it. I was gonna make you feel what my father felt when he had nothing left. She looked away, and in that moment, Ryuto saw something he'd never expected to see in Amara Chen's eyes. Tears. "I didn't count on this," she whispered. "I didn't count on you being more than just the monster I'd built in my head. I didn't count on the late-night conversations, the way you remember how I take my coffee, the way you look at me like I'm the only person in the world that matters. I didn't count on falling for you, you bastard." The room went silent except for the hum of the city below. "So what now?" Ryuto asked. Amara pulled out a flash drive from her purse. "This is everything. Every file, every contact, every piece of dirt I've collected. It's yours. You can destroy me with it, send me to prison, whatever you want." She set it on the table between them. "Or you can let me walk away. And this here, we go our separate ways and I disappear. That's it. After everything, you're just gonna walk. What else is there?" She finally looked at him and her eyes were drowning. "You think we can just get married and pretend none of this happened? That I didn't seduce you to destroy you? That you didn't destroy my family? That's not how the world works, Ryuto. We're poison to each other." Ryuto picked up the flash drive, turning it over in his fingers. Then he did something that shocked both of them. He walked to the window and threw it out, watching it disappear into the Tokyo night. 40 floors below. "I don't want it," he said. "I want you." "You're insane," Amara said, but her voice was shaking. Maybe I'm the first person in your life who's loved you more than they've loved revenge." Ryuto turned to face her. "Your father, you're right. I destroyed him. I was ruthless and brutal, and I drove him to the edge. That's who I was. Maybe that's still who I am. But I can't change the past, Amara. None of us can. The only question is what happens next. You should hate me. I should. But I don't. I love you, even knowing everything, even knowing you wanted to destroy me. I love you. And the really screwed up part, I think you love me too." Amara was crying now, really crying. All that ice cold control finally melting away. "My father is dead, and your mother's dead, and nothing we do can bring them back. But we're alive, Amara. We're standing here, in this moment, and we get to choose what comes next. Do we keep destroying each other, or do we try something different?" She laughed through her tears. "What? Like a happily ever after? We're not broken for that fairy tale shit. Who says we need happily ever after? Maybe we just need each other, broken pieces fitting together. For a long moment, Amara just stared at him. Then she closed the distance between them. And when she kissed him, it tasted like salt and surrender and something that might have been hope. They made love that night different from before. No games, no power plays, just a damaged people trying to find something real in the wreckage of their lives. When Amara fell asleep in his arms, Ryuto held her close and finally let himself believe that maybe, just maybe, they could make this work. That's why what happened next broke him completely. He woke up to find her side of the bed empty. There was a note on the pillow, written in her elegant handwriting. "I'm sorry. I love you. But I can't be her the woman who forgives and forgets. My father's ghost won't let me." By the time you read this, the information will already be released to your competitors and the authorities. Everything. Your empire will fall by morning. This is who I am, Ryuto. I'm my father's daughter, and his death demands payment. I just wish I could hate you enough to enjoy it. Goodbye, my Shadow King. In another life, maybe we could have been different people. Ryuto didn't move for a full minute. Then he walked to his computer and pulled up his financial networks. She was right. It was already happening. Leaks to the media, anonymous tips to investigators, coordinated attacks on his businesses from competitors who suddenly had insider information. By noon, the Shadow King's empire would be in ruins. He should have been furious, should have mobilized his people, fought back, done something. Instead, he just laughed. Here's what nobody knew. Not even Amara, with all her careful planning, Ryuto had figured out who she was 3 months ago. Way before Kenji brought him that file. He de-hired private investigators the night after he met her because men like Ryuto don't survive by being careless, and they de-uncovered everything. He'd known. The whole time, he'd known exactly who she was and what she wanted. And he'd fallen in love with her anyway. More than that, he'd let her get close, let her gather information, let her think she was playing him. Because somewhere in his cold, calculating heart, Ryuto realized he wanted this. Wanted to be vulnerable for once in his goddamn life. Wanted to see if there was something more than power and control. But there was one more thing Amara didn't know. 6 hours after she disappeared, every piece of information she'd released mysteriously vanished. Wiped from servers, recalled from news organizations, deleted from existence. The investigators who'd received tips suddenly lost all their evidence. The competitors who'd been gearing up to strike found their own dirty secrets being leaked instead. Because Ryuto Kageyama hadn't become the Shadow King by being stupid. He'd known this was coming, had prepared countermeasures, had set up a network so deep and complex that even Amara's 15 years of planning couldn't touch it. By sunset, his empire was intact, stronger, even, as his rivals found themselves suddenly vulnerable. And Amara, she'd vanished like smoke, probably thinking she'd won, not knowing that everything she'd done had been anticipated, countered, neutralized. 6 months later, Ryuto sat in his penthouse, drinking the same expensive scotch, staring at the same Tokyo skyline. He hadn't tried to find her, hadn't sent his people after her, just let her go, let her disappear into whatever new life she planned. Some of his associates thought he was going soft, said he should have crushed her, made an example, done what the old Ryuto would have done. But they didn't understand. See, Amara had done something nobody else had ever managed. She'd made him feel real, raw, human emotion. She'd cracked open his chest and shown him he had a heart, even if she tried to rip it out afterward. And yeah, it hurt like hell. Hurt worse than any business loss, worse than any betrayal by his associates. But it was real. For the first time in his life, Ryuto Kageyama had experienced something real. His phone buzzed. A known number. He almost didn't answer. Hello? Silence. Then, you knew. Amara's voice, barely a whisper. This whole time, you knew who I was. Yeah. Why didn't you stop me? Why didn't you? Because I loved you. Still do, if I'm being honest. And because maybe, deep down, I thought I deserved it. Your revenge, your hate, all of it. More silence. He could hear her breathing, could almost see her standing somewhere out there in the city, probably crying. I'm at the airport, she said finally. Flight to Singapore leaves in an hour. New life, new identity, everything I planned. Have a good life, Amara. Ryuto, yeah. Gate 47. Terminal 2. Just in case you wanted to know. The line went dead. So here's where I leave you hanging, because this is where the story gets interesting. Did Ryuto go to that airport? Did he let the only woman who ever cracked his armor walk away? Did he choose his empire over his heart? Or did he finally learn that some things matter more than power? I could tell you. Could wrap this up in a neat little bow, give you closure, tell you whether they ended up together or apart. But here's the truth. I don't know. See, I am just a guy who heard this story in a bar in Shinjuku from a woman with sad eyes in an expensive dress who said she used to know the Shadow King. Could have been Amara herself, could have been someone else, could have been complete bullshit. But what I do know is this: power and love, they're both addictions. And the most dangerous thing in the world is when they collide, because when that happens, somebody's always left standing in the ruins, wondering if they made the right choice. Ryuto Kageyama was the Shadow King, the most powerful man in Tokyo. He could have had anything, anyone, built an empire that would last 100 years. Instead, he fell in love with the one woman designed to destroy him. Was that his legacy? The empire he built, the fear he commanded, the power he wielded? Or was it his greatest lust? The obsession that consumed him, the love that broke him, the choice that defined him? Maybe it was both. Maybe that's the point. All I know is somewhere out there, maybe they're together, maybe they're apart, maybe they're still playing their twisted game, still dancing on the edge of love and destruction. Or maybe, just maybe, they learned that sometimes the greatest power is knowing when to let go. But that's for them to know, and for us to wonder about.